Your art doesn't suck, you're just at the wrong market. Hi, I'm AudreyGale and I do art, and today we're going to be talking about why your art might not be selling at your markets. It's not because you have bad art, it's because you're probably at the wrong market. I've been selling my art at markets for the last 3 years now, and I can say that the majority of them have been duds. I have gone to a lot of bad art markets. While that might be unfortunate for my sales, it has helped me recognize what markets work for me and which ones don't. Some of the things I say about this topic are going to be considered unpopular opinions. And it might not even apply to your arts and crafts business in general. I would say that this sort of advice would apply to your fine arts and crafts people, your painters, your ceramicists, woodworkers, glass stain artists, stuff like that. So the first thing you have to recognize about different types of markets, especially if you're just starting out, is the different types of markets that are available. So you've got your flea/farmers markets, you've got your craft shows, and you've got your artisan markets. You have to be able to recognize what type of show you're at so that you know, hey, if it worked out, great, I'm going to do more stuff like this, and if it didn't work out, I'm going to avoid this type of thing. So for flea markets and farmers markets, it's usually easier to discern what they are because it's usually right in the name. These are markets that are usually close to home. They're on some sort of regular schedule, maybe once a week or every other week. It's a pretty low entrance fee, sometimes like $10, $20, $40. And these are usually food heavy markets. Then you've got craft shows. These can be close to home whether you live in a bigger city or a smaller town. These are usually done like every year or maybe twice a year, but not on a regular schedule like every week or every month. There's usually a bigger fee for these sort of events, but nothing crazy. So maybe you're paying $100 for a day or weekend. Maybe you're paying $200, $300 tops. These might be 1 or 2 days. Then you've got your artisan markets, which are going to be done maybe yearly or twice a year. This is going to be your bigger fee, but this is usually a highly marketed event, and it's usually several days. I have seen artisan markets that are 2 or 3 days, maybe 4. I have seen some that are 10 days. So anywhere in that range, you do have to pay a bigger fee, but you kind of get more bang for your buck. This is going to be fine artists and crafters. Usually you have to submit a body of work. Sometimes you can't include your name anywhere on the work so that it's completely unbiased to the jury. They have a jury that looks over these things and says, yes, you can come join us, or no, you cannot, for whatever reason. Oftentimes these markets have rules about stickers, merchandise, etc. They seem to be more strict than your farmers markets or your craft shows. So for example, there's a really great Tennessee market here that happens twice a year, and they don't allow any sort of merch, no stickers. If you have prints, they have to be numbered, and it's pretty much just prints and originals that they allow when it comes to painters or drawers of any kind. These artisan markets are going to be more few and far between. So you're probably going to find this more in a bigger city than a smaller city. So this might be something you need to travel to. And when you're first starting out doing craft shows, doing art markets, it might be difficult to get the vibe of the market when you're thinking about, okay, what am I going to apply for? What am I going to think about, in the future? Like, oh, what am I going to sign up for this fall? What am I going to sign up for around the holidays? It might be difficult to suss that out. The best way to tell is to go in person. You can see for yourself, okay, what are the other vendors like? What kind of stuff are they selling? Obviously, that's not always possible to go in person, especially if it's something that doesn't happen all the time. Especially for your yearly events or for your big events that are out of town. So the next best thing would be to look at photos online and see if you can get an idea of what kind of vendors sell there. Are they similar to you? Are they completely different than the stuff that you sell? It might also give you an idea of who exactly is selling at the markets. For example, you might find a list of vendors from the previous event that you can look up, and then you can go to their Instagram and see what kind of stuff that they sell. I would also recommend reaching out to these sellers and saying, hey, I saw that you attended this market. I'm a vendor myself, and I was thinking about attending this market. What do you think about it? Is it worth the money? Is it worth going to? I have never come across a vendor that is unwilling to share that information. Everyone is kind of rooting for everyone. Everyone seems to be very helpful and willing to help another vendor out. Another thing to check out would be obviously the website of the event itself. There's a lot of other videos that will tell you, hey, you need to look at the stats. You need to look at the demographics of the market. I'm here to tell you that that is not always available. I find that it is rarely available. So if you find stats on a website, that's a green flag. The fact that they even have them is a green flag. However, you do need to look at those stats and think to yourself, is that my demographic? For example, I sell pop art. I sell like realistic pop art, fun art. My art mostly attracts women, particularly in their 20s and 30s, but maybe even in their 40s and 50s. I'm probably not going to do well at an event that attracts 65-year-old men. These are the things that you need to think about. I'm going to share with you a few red flags to look for from markets. These are my personal red flags and things that if I see this happening at a market, either in their pictures or in person or on their website, I kind of go, maybe this isn't a good one for me. 1, MLMs. Some applications specifically say, do not apply if you're an MLM. That is a green flag. A red flag is when you walk right into an event and I see an MLM right in front of me. And then down the hall, I see another MLM. And then I see another one. I recently went to a local art market. I was doing some research to see if I wanted to attend this in the future. It's $800 a table. It's a 3-day market. It's pretty popular. So I thought, let me just see what I think about it. The first thing I saw was an MLM. There were some other red flags. Ultimately, I decided not to do that next year. Another red flag for me, and this might ruffle some feathers, is tacky shit at the market. In other words, those tulle wreaths, no. Your live, laugh, loves, your happy fall y'alls. And maybe this is just something that is really prevalent in the South where I'm from, or maybe the Midwest. But if I'm seeing a lot of that, and it's probably not a good show for me to do. Another thing that I'll say is there are a lot of shows, at least down in the South, that are heavily women's boutiques. I've gone to several markets to check them out that are really popular, and I go there and it's like 75% women's clothing, which I don't have a problem with women's boutiques, but it's just like not even an art market at that point. It's not a craft market anymore. It's something where I would, stick out, but maybe not in a good way. Like, people are not going for my stuff if they're just there to shop for clothes. Another thing I've noticed is that a lot of markets have booths for people who sell gutters or people who sell window blinds. And I used to think that was weird. I still kind of think it's weird. It kind of like gave me the impression, oh, they're just letting anybody in here. But a lot of the times those companies are sponsoring the event, so therefore they get a booth. So kind of weird, but don't look too much into it is what I would say. Another red flag for me when it comes to markets is suspiciously cheap markets. There are markets that are automatically cheaper. Your farmers markets, your hometown little craft shows might be $50 to join for a night. I feel a lot of those cheaper events are not as well marketed, not as well attended, and overall attract the sort of things that don't invite high art. They don't invite like craftsmanship. It's going to be a lot of live, laugh, love. It's going to be a lot of ugly wreaths. It's going to be a lot of I have a Cricut machine, so therefore I'm a small business owner. It's going to be a lot of like glitter tumblers, monogram stuff. There's a time and a place for these sort of things, but if you find that your market is just riddled with stuff like that, then your expensive, fine quality art or craftsmanship items are probably not going to thrive at something like this. This is the equivalent of like TJ Maxx art. People, you know, there's a certain type of clientele that goes to those things, and that, you know, the wreath people, the ugly wreath people and the live, laugh, love people are killing it, clearly. But that's not your clientele. So maybe don't go to that market. And here's something that I'll say. If you are brand new to the vendor market space and you're an artist trying to figure things out, then a farmer's market might be fine for you, just to become familiar, to kind of get your booth together, kind of experiment with some things, see people's reactions. It's certainly a cheap way to kind of get some practice in. I would tell you to not take low sales personally. I would tell you that, you know, if you think you're going to go there on a Saturday morning and make $1,000, it's not going to happen. Probably. But it will kind of get your foot in the door and kind of get you familiar with the vending process at least. It'll help you set up your booth. It'll help you figure out how to talk to people. So I don't think that flea markets and farmers markets and hometown craft shows are a complete waste of time necessarily. But I think that eventually those are not going to be the dynamite markets for you. I think that once you get your booth established and once you get your portfolio established, you need to be going for higher end markets. At that point, these smaller markets are kind of a waste of your time. I would tell you that when you're searching for markets to participate in, I would look for markets with vendors who have similar talent levels to you. You're not making the exact same thing, but, you know, if you're an artist and you are good, you need to be going to markets with other good artists. You need to be saying, this is a glassine artist who really knows what they're doing and has really cool stuff. This woodworker has amazing art. Because the same clientele who are going to purchase from them are probably going to purchase from you if you are on a similar level of talent. The last thing I'll say about art markets is you need to be willing to spend the money and take a risk on the right markets. You will not know until you try. I have done a lot of smaller, cheaper markets, like more frequently. That doesn't work for me. I think it's much more worth your time if you maybe don't do quite as many markets because you're spending more money at each market to be there. But those markets are targeted for your clientele. They have vendors that are just as talented as you are, if not more. They don't have this market all the time. Maybe they do it once a year or maybe a couple times a year. So it's more sought after. It's people wait all year to go to this thing. These are markets that are more likely to be heavily marketed so that people know about it. And people get excited about this stuff over the years. I know I do. It's much more worth your time and your money to go to these events less frequently. And maybe you spend more money at this booth. Maybe you spend 10 times more money at a booth than you would for a farmer's market. But when you get there, your sales are crazy good because you fine-picked these markets. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you learned something today. I hope that this kind of helped you narrow down all of your options so that you can pick the best market for you. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful at all, please like, subscribe. I post videos like this all the time about markets, about paint parties, about murals, about art business. So if you're into that sort of thing, please subscribe, and thanks for watching. Bye.